In the aftermath of the Soviet Union's collapse in 1991, Russia stood at a crossroads, a nation in flux and an economy in transition. This pivotal moment marked the inception of a group of individuals who would come to be known as oligarchs.
Powerful Russian oligarch.
Russian oligarchs.
Russian oligarch.
Russian oligarch.
Powerful, wealthy figures whose rise to prominence would shape the course of Russian history. The oligarchs' rise. The dawn of the 1990s saw Russia embark on an audacious experiment. A journey from a tightly controlled, state-driven economy to a free market system. This period of economic reform, known as privatization, aimed to dismantle state-owned enterprises that were vastly unprofitable and in debt and open the door to privately owned companies that drive the economy forward. However, the lack of a well-defined regulatory framework created a vacuum, and a select few with strategic political connections seized the opportunity. Armed with ambition, shrewd business acumen, and access to resources, these opportunists became the architects of a new era. They were the oligarchs, a term that would soon reverberate through the halls of power and the lives of everyday Russians. The landscape was a mosaic of industries in flux. Amidst the whirlwind, the oligarchs strategically maneuvered, acquiring stakes in sectors poised for growth. Energy, natural resources, media, and telecommunications became their domains, and their wealth multiplied exponentially. The privatization process was designed to give equal opportunity to all Russian citizens. The government issued bonds, each one worth approximately 2 months' average salary. However, in these times, money was tight, and the uncertainty didn't allow many to part with their savings in chasing dreams. Only a select few, mainly with connections to the KGB, had the money and connections to buy off what would later become the backbone of the Russian economy. Yet it wasn't merely financial prowess that fueled their ascent. The oligarchs recognized the power of alliances, weaving a complex web of political connections that spanned the corridors of power. These affiliations weren't just a means to an end. They were the very currency that sustained their dominance. Through collaboration with influential government officials, the oligarchs swayed policies, inked lucrative deals, and shielded their interests from the winds of change. At the heart of this transformation lay Russia's vast natural resources, a treasure trove of oil, natural gas, and minerals. The oligarchs enthusiastically seized this opportunity, exploiting the privatization of these invaluable assets. Their control over major energy corporations not only propelled their wealth, but also cemented their influence in the nation's economic tapestry. Behind the scenes, financial wizardry further augmented their fortunes. Complex networks of offshore entities and intricate financial maneuvers enabling them to consolidate their gains, expanding their economic empires, and tightening their grip on power. However, the oligarchs' rise was not without its challenges and conflicts. As their influence grew, clashes among this elite fraternity emerged, and their aspirations often clashed with the state's vision. Vladimir Putin's ascent to power in 1999 marked a turning point. The new leadership sought to recalibrate the balance of power, reigniting debates about the extent of oligarchic influence. Putin and the oligarchs. Many of the oligarchs stood behind Boris Eltsin's second term as president, which allowed them to retain the security of monopolization of the country. During this time, Putin was becoming increasingly popular, and many foresaw his rise to power. Thus, a significant number of oligarchs stood behind his election in 1999, unknowing what was coming. His arrival marked a turning point, heralding a period of recalibration, confrontation, and a power struggle that would shape Russia's future. The oligarchs, who had wielded considerable influence through their political connections and economic dominance, found themselves facing a formidable adversary. Putin, acutely aware of this concentration of power among this elite few, embarked on a mission to reassert the state's authority and regain control over key industries. The clashes between Putin and the oligarchs were emblematic of a battle for supremacy. Putin's administration initiated legal challenges, anti-corruption investigations, and pressures aimed at forcing the oligarchs to divest their assets or cede control. The legal terrain became a battleground, as the state sought to diminish the oligarchs' political influence and financial stranglehold. The oligarchs, however, were not about to yield without a fight. Their formidable resources and strategic prowess were brought to bear in defense of their hard-won empires. Legal countermeasures, political maneuvering, and media campaigns became their tools to protect their acquisitions and sway public sentiment. As the tug-of-war between Putin and the oligarchs unfolded, a new element entered the fray: the rise of the Siloviki. This group, comprising individuals with backgrounds in security and law enforcement, shared a common thread of allegiance to Putin. Emerging from the depths of Russia's security apparatus, they embodied a new brand of authority and loyalty: the Siloviki. The Siloviki, often characterized by their strongman approach and unwavering commitment to the state's interests, began to play an increasingly prominent role. This marked a significant shift in the power dynamics. While the oligarchs had thrived on their economic might and political connections, the Siloviki wielded a different kind of power, one grounded in security, control, and unswerving allegiance to Putin's vision. The term Siloviki derives from the Russian word silovik, which translates to person of power or force person. This name encapsulates their origins within the realms of security and law enforcement agencies, highlighting their affiliation with strength, control, and unwavering loyalty to the state and its leadership. The Siloviki were comprised of individuals who hailed from agencies such as the military, intelligence services, police, and other security branches. These backgrounds imbued them with a strong sense of discipline, hierarchy, and a pragmatic approach to governance. As a collective, the Siloviki embodied a potent blend of political influence and security expertise, often placing a premium on stability and control. Prominent figures within the Siloviki fold wielded significant influence over Russia's political landscape. Among them, figures like Igor Sechin, the chairman of Rosneft and a close associate of President Putin, stood out. Sechin's background in the KGB and his extensive connections positioned him as a key architect of Russia's energy sector and a central player in the country's power dynamics. Another notable Silovik was Dmitry Medvedev, better known these days as the guy who threatens Europe and the US with a nuclear strike every Tuesday. He served as Russia's president from 2008 to 2012 and later as prime minister. Medvedev's association with Putin dates back to their time together in St. Petersburg, and his role in various government positions highlighted the intertwined relationships between the Siloviki and the political elite. The Siloviki's loyalty to Putin and his vision was paramount. Those who allied with his policies and demonstrated an unwavering commitment to his leadership often ascended through the ranks of power. However, disappointing Putin or falling out of favor could lead to swift and consequential repercussions. Individuals who failed to meet the president's expectations or undermined his authority often faced diminished influence, reassignments, or even legal challenges. Since the war in Ukraine started, the consequences became even direr, as Siloviki who disappointed Putin often found themselves flying out of a window, meeting their doom. This method of deposing of unwanted Siloviki became so popular that the internet exploded with memes and jokes about how Russian oligarchs were learning to fly. Even before the war, the Siloviki were not immune to internal rivalries and power struggles. Those who showed weakness were often discarded one way or the other. If they didn't struggle, they simply were stripped of their possessions and left to fend for themselves. Those who struggled found themselves in jail or worse. The rise of the Siloviki marked a shift towards a more centralized and security-oriented form of governance. Their influence complemented Putin's leadership style, prioritizing stability, control, and a pragmatic approach to national governance. During this time, the old-school oligarchs had a difficult choice to make: oligarchs with and against Putin. Amid Russia's political theater, the fates of prominent oligarchs during Vladimir Putin's presidency paint a vivid portrait of the consequences, both perilous and rewarding, that awaited those who dared to challenge or align with the Kremlin's authority. One of the most striking examples of opposition to Putin's rule was the case of Mikhail Khodorkovsky. Once an influential figure in the Russian oil industry, Khodorkovsky openly challenged Putin's political direction and funded opposition parties. However, his dissent was met with a swift and resolute response. In 2003, Khodorkovsky was arrested, and his oil company, Yukos, was dismantled through legal maneuvers, resulting in his imprisonment for a decade. This served as a stark reminder that crossing Putin's path came with severe consequences. Another figure who found himself on the opposite side of Putin's equation was Boris Berezovsky. A former oligarch and media tycoon, Berezovsky had once been a political kingmaker. However, his growing opposition to Putin led to his self-imposed exile in the United Kingdom. His efforts to rally opposition forces from abroad were met with limited success, and his mysterious death in 2013 underscored the high stakes of political dissent. Alexei Navalny, a prominent anti-corruption activist and opposition figure, has faced repeated arrests, threats, and even an assassination attempt believed to have been orchestrated by Russian security services. His unyielding commitment to exposing corruption and his vocal criticism of the Kremlin have made him a symbol of resistance, but also a target of the authorities. The case of Alexander Litvinenko serves as a chilling example of the lengths to which the Kremlin might go to silence dissenters. A former KGB officer turned vocal critic of Putin's government, Litvinenko was poisoned with a lethal dose of radioactive polonium in London in 2006, sparking an international outcry and casting a shadow over the tactics used against opponents. On the other end of the spectrum, oligarchs who aligned themselves with Putin often found themselves in favorable positions. Roman Abramovich, a billionaire with strong ties to Putin, was able to maintain and expand his business interests, particularly in the energy sector. His loyalty to the Kremlin was rewarded with influence and protection. Mikhail Prokhorov and Alisher Usmanov, both oligarchs with close ties to the Russian government, also saw their fortunes rise during Putin's presidency. Prokhorov's involvement in politics, even running for president as an independent candidate, did not hinder his success, while Usmanov's various ventures continued to flourish. Viktor Vekselberg, another oligarch who maintained an amicable relationship with the Kremlin, was able to grow his business empire and become a prominent figure in Russia's business landscape. Those who chose to serve Putin indeed found themselves leading one truly opulent lifestyle. The oligarch's lifestyle. Roman Abramovich, often associated with his ownership of Chelsea Football Club, epitomized the lavish lifestyle that many oligarchs enjoyed. His grand yachts, luxurious estates, and high-end art collections showcase his immense wealth. A close confidant of Putin, Abramovich successfully merged his business interests with political affiliations, solidifying his status as a key player in both realms. Roman Abramovich's opulent lifestyle extended to the azure waters, where his fleet of luxurious yachts became floating palaces of extravagance. A notable vessel in his collection was the Eclipse, a yacht that held the title of one of the largest and most lavish private yachts in the world. With features like multiple swimming pools, a dedicated disco hall, and even a missile defense system, the Eclipse exemplified Abramovich's penchant for pushing the boundaries of opulence on the high seas. His private jets, such as a customized Boeing 767, allowed him to seamlessly transition from the waves to the skies, all while maintaining an air of exclusivity and grandeur. With his diverse interests spanning from mining to media, Mikhail Prokhorov embodied a cosmopolitan aura. His ownership of the Brooklyn Nets basketball team and his ventures in the entertainment industry underscored his global reach. A distinctive figure known for his active lifestyle, Prokhorov dabbled in politics, running for the Russian presidency in 2012, while his opulent living quarters and grandiose celebrations offered a window into his high-flying existence. Mikhail Prokhorov, a globe-trotter by nature, extended his cosmopolitan aura to the skies with a fleet of private jets tailored to his jet-setting lifestyle. These aircrafts were more than just modes of transportation, they were mobile command centers for his multifaceted endeavors. Prokhorov's extensive property portfolio further underlined his high-octane lifestyle. His residences, whether it was his sprawling villa in the French Alps or his lavish penthouse overlooking Manhattan, were reflections of his global reach and his ability to seamlessly transition between the world's most iconic destinations. Alisher Usmanov's path to riches, largely through metals and mining, saw him rise to prominence as one of Russia's wealthiest individuals. His acquisitions included a significant stake in Arsenal Football Club, further elevating his international profile. Usmanov's passion for art and philanthropy underscored a more multifaceted approach to his opulent lifestyle, blending business, culture, and social responsibility. Alisher Usmanov's private jets and yachts were symbols of his remarkable rise in the world of business and culture. His private jet, a gleaming Gulfstream, whisked him to far-flung corners of the globe, enabling him to oversee his multifaceted empire. Similarly, his luxury yachts, like the Dilbar, represented his passion for life's finer things. Usmanov's grand estates, spanning from London to Moscow, provided the backdrop for his opulent lifestyle, with each property offering a glimpse into his multifaceted persona, a blend of business titan, art aficionado, and philanthropist. Viktor Vekselberg, known for his involvement in natural resources and metals, epitomized the marriage of wealth and culture. His fascination with art and historical artifacts led to the establishment of world-class museums showcasing his vast collections. Vekselberg's foray into cultural preservation was intertwined with his business endeavors, creating a unique fusion of opulence and heritage. Viktor Vekselberg's affinity for culture found its expression in his private jets and properties. His penchant for art extended even to the skies, with his private aircraft adorned with artworks, making every journey a curated experience. His properties transcend traditional boundaries as he established world-class museums to house his extensive art and historical artifact collections. These cultural landmarks, combined with his impressive real estate holdings, showcased Vekselberg's unique ability to intertwine his passion for heritage with his business acumen. These oligarchs, while reveling in lives of luxury, were often keenly aware of the symbiotic relationship between wealth, influence, and the political landscape. Their support of Putin's regime not only afforded them the means to indulge in the finer things, but also provided them with a seat at the table where key discussions were made. Unfortunately for them, they weren't able to persuade Putin to tame his ego and not start his suicidal war against Ukraine. How did their life change after the Western sanctions? Amidst the tumultuous geopolitical landscape marked by Putin's aggression towards Ukraine and the subsequent imposition of Western sanctions, the lives of Russian oligarchs who had aligned themselves with Putin's authority took a profound turn. The once gilded existence they had crafted now faced unprecedented challenges, reshaping their influence and altering their grandiose lifestyles. The European Commission's Freeze and Seize Task Force, established to enforce sanctions against Russian and Belarusians, became a pivotal force in curbing their financial maneuvers. This initiative aimed to freeze and confiscate the assets of those targeted by sanctions. The international Russian elites, proxies, and oligarchs Repo task force, comprising G7 nations and the European Union, further amplified this effort. Cooperation between these task forces, transcending transatlantic boundaries, underlined the determination to enforce sanctions and dismantle the power structures supporting the oligarchs. The oligarchs, once accustomed to exerting their influence within Putin's inner circle, found themselves trapped by the tightening grip of sanctions. The measures were not only targeted at their personal fortunes, but also sought to disrupt the financial lifelines that fueled Putin's war machine. The oligarchs' opulent lifestyles were no longer immune to the repercussions of their alignment with Putin's agenda. The disruption caused by the sanctions and the increasing scrutiny from international regulatory bodies starkly contrasted their previous unchecked extravagance. The shift in their circumstances underscored the limitations of their power and the challenges in maintaining their status quo amidst a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape. The oligarchs' attempts to maneuver within this new reality revealed a complex interplay of interests. Some, like Mikhail Friedman, actively sought to lobby for the lifting of sanctions, engaging with opposition figures and seeking compromise. However, the effectiveness of such efforts remained questionable, as the sanctions had inadvertently exposed the oligarchs' precarious position within the global financial framework. While the oligarchs' grandeur may have been momentarily disrupted, the broader question remained: could these individuals, who had amassed immense wealth through their ties to the Russian government, truly alter the trajectory of Putin's regime? The constraints of the sanctions, combined with their intricate entanglement in the power structures of Putin's Russia, rendered their influence more ambiguous than ever before. And while we can only wonder how much more sanctions it will take for the Russian oligarchs to take a stand against Vladimir Putin, we know for certain that the Russian president won't give up easily. No, when he has surrounded himself with one of the most elite protective forces in the entire world. Care to learn more about Vladimir Putin's bodyguards?